right, everyone. We're going to start now. Welcome to the very last episode of Back to Business webinar series. This is just our first season, so we're not going to go anywhere. It's just we're taking a small break and then seeing where the world is going to be in a couple of weeks' time. My name is Heleri Rande. I am a partner at Think Hospitality, as well as the co-founder of New Baltic Hospitality Forum. So as I said, today is our 7th and last episode in this series. So thank you so much for joining us. I know it's summer, it's beautiful outside. I am, for the 7th and last episode, saying hello from Tallinn. I flew here last night, my first flight after March 13th, which was an experience, but thank you Air Baltic, if there's anyone from Air Baltic watching, for getting us safely back from our point in London back to Tallinn here. So just a quick overview. We are a team of 5 people working on this concept and making sure we bring the best of hospitality to the Baltic region, and working with our partners also in Finland and around the different countries. We did a forum last year. I know quite a lot of you were participants. It was an absolutely great event with great people and great discussions, and we wanted to keep this going. So this year's forum, obviously from April, has been postponed to October. Watch out for the announcement of how we're going to do it in a couple of weeks' time, because obviously the world is still in absolute chaos, and we want to make sure we do it in a responsible way. So there's going to be more communication first going out to our speakers and sponsors and partners, and then we'll get it information out to everyone as well in a couple of weeks' time. We then decided that there's a lot of things to talk about in the meantime, however. So we put together, with great support from Enterprise Estonia and the city of Tallinn, a webinar series consisting of 7 episodes, every time focusing on different aspects of the industry and bringing in speakers to talk to those aspects. And here you can see our journey from the beginning. All of this can be rewatched on our website, and every episode we have our lovely sketch artist Kati Orav, who produces these infographics both in Estonian and in English. So do go to our website, make sure you share with your teams. These are great tools. This is a snapshot from the episode we had last week that was all about real estate and finance, and you can see those for each episode. So do make sure you use these resources, because they are really relevant, and we try to kind of condense all that information that we do in like 45-50 minutes onto one slide. But now on to today's session. It is my great pleasure to welcome 3 great panelists, and we're going to cover different topics ranging from education skills, sustainability, and business models, and new products and service models in our sector, because there's a lot of changes coming. And first, actually, I would like to do a poll. We're going to go first to Eric and talk about sustainability, and I'm going to launch it on the screen. All these polls are anonymous, so I will not know who says what. So the first poll is going to be about sustainability. So you can see it on your screen now. If you could vote, please. So which of the following topics is your most important sustainability goal for 2021? Is it single-use plastic reduction elimination? Is it carbon emission reduction? Is it diversity and inclusion? Or is it waste reduction? So I'm going to give a couple of seconds to vote. I see votes coming in. It's quite interesting. It's very sort of tied between 2. So I think it's going to give some great color to what Eric will talk about. So that will be great. I'm going to try to get it up to about 80%. So giving you a few more seconds to vote. We're at 73. There we go. A bit more. Yes. All right. I'm going to close it now. So I'm going to end the poll. Voila. And I'm going to share it. So what did we see? The 43%, the winner in this category, so to speak, is waste reduction, which is quite interesting, and single-use plastic reduction and elimination coming right after. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And I'm going to now give it over to Eric. Hopefully our connection from Singapore will stay. So let's see where we are. And first of all, let me try to also unmute Eric. So there we go. Just 1 second. All right, Eric, over to you.
Thank you. And first off, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Heleri. Thank you, everybody. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here remotely. Have to say, I'm glad that I was given the opportunity to speak now, because probably wouldn't have been able to make it to the Baltics during this time. So it's fantastic, and thank you for inviting me. So the question is, tourism and sustainability, has the world taken 3 steps back in this? I think that's the course. Now we can say for certain tourism took a step back. But I would say that in sustainability, one of the most interesting things in that context is we have taken a step back, because prior to 2020, let's be honest, travel, hospitality, hotel development, operation, it was go, go, go. It was full steam ahead, pipeline, new development, new travelers, everything was just roaring. And so everybody knew this was on the plate, but we were too busy doing other things. And so there has been this massive step back. And wait a minute, let me rethink, what is it that we need to do in order to move forward in this next paradigm? And sustainability definitely fits in for a number of different reasons. And so my bottom line here is that yes, sustainability is going to be at the forefront of the discussion. It already is in a lot of the ways people are trying to come back, regardless of linkages between hygiene and sustainability. The other aspects are definitely here to stay. So a couple things to consider. First, when plastic became this global pandemic prior to COVID, 2018, and it was a matter of suddenly plastic was an issue, and we need to reduce plastic, straws, single-use plastic, and the industry jumped on this. And we advised dozens of hotel companies, and the question they would ask me was, what's coming next? What is next? What is the next big issue? And I said, the next big issue is something. Don't necessarily know what it is. Could be waste, could be water, could be other things, but there are always issues around environmental, social, and even the governance side that come up. And the best way to prepare for that is to have a structure in your company and your hotel to manage it, and to be able to assess and understand the various risks related to the topics around sustainability that come up. And so we've seen a lot of things now, and that's why purposefully that panel, for example, the poll, most may say, well, plastic is not an issue because we've already resolved that. The waste reduction has been a big one, because that's where we're seeing many more opportunities to reduce costs now. Diversity inclusion, now it was 13% in the results, but depending where you are in the world, that is the #1 goal in the next 12 months. And that would have probably been 0 had we not seen a global phenomenon resulting from manifestations. So there always will things be coming. But I think now what we've seen generally is people taking a step back and said, what is it about sustainability that I need to address, and how do I address it within my company? And I just want to give 3 buckets of what you need to do to succeed or to manage this going forward. And we'd like it to bucket them in 3 types. First are the physical risks, the actual physical things of climate change that are going to happen and that you can do your part to prevent. Second are the regulatory compliance or sort of cost of doing business with partners aspect. And the third are your customer aspects. So first on the physical, the topic and buzzword of 2020, even prior to COVID, was resilience or resiliency. That was the word. In real estate, everybody was talking about it, and which is, are you correctly identifying the risks and opportunities related to water? Are you going to have enough water to operate your building? Are there climate risks for drought, for flood, for increased storms, for cyclones? Are there various biodiversity impacts? Are there socioeconomic impacts and risks that you need to be aware of? And are there other things going on in that location that, because of climate change and the related aspects of resource scarcity, you need to look at? And so the best practice of evaluating your buildings, your assets in current and pipeline for various environmental social risks, that's one of the best ways to mitigate and to look at it. So that will be, the companies that come ahead will be able to identify those, because 1, they'll make a business case. If you're in an area where you're going to have water stress and water scarcity in the next few years, then it makes the case to invest in water technology. So those are the physical risks that are more apparent and clear, but it's not just the cut and dry, the world is going to be hotter, it's going to have more cyclones, it varies place by place. Some places may see better temperatures, better weather. Some may see worse. So some may have drought, some may have cyclones, but you'll have to assess that. That's the first. The second, in the regulatory side, is how governments from local up to federal or countries are putting in policies to move people in a direction. you see this of incentives or compliance for energy efficiency, for renewables, for waste management. So you need to take a look at those and what is coming down the pipeline. For example, what might not be in your location, but is in another city in your country, that may come down. And then compliance is not only what the governments will ask you to do, but also what your investors will ask you to do. And the other biggest trend in ESG are investment. If you want to partner for equity, you want to partner even a lender. This is not just for publicly traded companies, but private equity. We're seeing a lot of companies saying, I need money right now, or now is a great time to go and put a fund together and buy some assets, or I want to transact. And what we're seeing more and more is money, and those who have access to it are putting more environmental, social stipulations on their screening of investments. So to win, you need to have your ducks in a row and say, and be able to answer, what are you doing about climate change, about energy, about water, about modern slavery in your supply chain? What are your policies? What are your programs? And what data do you have to show for it? So that's one thing that you'll need to look at, because any type of new investment will likely have clauses, stipulations, or at least conversations about it. And then finally, on the business or the customer side, you have the guest and you have your corporates. And what we've seen in the year prior to COVID, which is not going to go away, is an emergence of wanting more sustainability in my experience, or knowing that there is a sustainability label or stamp of approval. That's been enigmatic in the industry for years, but we're seeing from the distribution side, from the OTAs, we're seeing the buyers, the travel buyers at the corporate level, and even the guests all manifesting that they are interested in aspects of sustainability. And now they're getting it right because it's topical. I want to see what the hotel's doing about plastic. I want to see what the hotel's doing about waste. I want to see more vegetarian, vegan menus. So it's tangibility. And then we're seeing more and more requirements for labels. And the Global Sustainable Tourism Council and criteria has been the one that's emerged across hotel companies, destinations, OTAs, and other systems providers. So we will see more of that sort of labeling come in. And then that's on the corporate customer side and on the guest side. So overall, business risks that come from physical, from regulatory compliance, whether it's from governments or from investment, and your customers. All of those need to be addressed in sustainability, and that's how you look at it. Find ways to manage it and constantly be discussing. That more or less is the framework that we recommend for companies to get started and to get ahead. Have your policies, have your programs, have your data in order, and make sure that that's discussed among the various stakeholders, the operator of the hotel, the owner of the asset. Those are the two key entities that need to play and discuss this, need to bring the owner into the discussion, if not before. And once owners start getting more proactive about it, that's really what we'll see is owners can't push this onto the brands anymore for the operational phase. It needs to come much earlier in the discussion. So that overall is where I think we're at. We did take a step back. And as we took a step back, we've seen a lot of interest saying, yes, let's get our program ducks in order so when 2021 comes, we're ready to come back sustainably.
Thank you, Eric. And I'm so glad that this is a great segue from what we talked about last week in the finance and real estate view. We had the CEO of NASDAQ Tallinn present as well, and that's exactly what he said about ESG playing such a big role in investments and how much investment firms are scrutinizing the sustainability policies when they're looking at where to put their money and where to invest. So I think that's a great continuation. One question to you is what sort of resources out there that companies could use based on everything that you talked about? What are some of the, I don't know, websites or places people should keep an eye on for these sort of frameworks that they can use in their business?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be honest, it's tough. In the world of ESG and the investor world, it changes every month. And so it's a myriad of things that people need to look at. So it's a little difficult there. But I would say that overall, if you look at the GSTC, Global Sustainable Tourism Council, with their criteria, that's going to quickly become a framework for how this is looked at. On the investor side, on the real estate owner side, look at GRESB or GRESB in the European context, Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark. Look at their criteria and how they're scoring. That's one that you can look at. And then, of course, you can go to our website. You can go to our feed on LinkedIn, where we have a lot of data, a lot of content, a lot of benchmarks on quantitative, qualitative, policy, And we post a lot of this to try to get more and more of the information out there. So I know I talked vaguely in the trends now, but we do have data to back that up. So feel free to reach out, and we're happy to send some along.
Thank you so much, Eric. And I actually, for a project that I'm myself involved in, I did take a look at your paper with Cornell that you did, where you used a lot of the benchmarking and data. So we'll pop your website into the post communication as well. So thank you so much, Eric. And I think this is actually a perfect segue now into bringing Nicolai into the conversation about new products and services and what's the kind of future development. But before we do that, I again want to get the sense of where our audience is in terms of concept change. So I'm going to launch a poll now on your screen. So the question is, what changes will you be making in your product or service offering? So are you going to do a total re-concept and re-refurbishment, taking this time when you know the trade's going to be low? Will you change your concept maybe about 75%? Will you change your concept, whether it's product or service, 50%? Will you change it only slightly? Or will you not change anything? So I see some responses coming in already. That's quite interesting, I must say. So let's give it a few more seconds, and I think we'll have a great basis to hear from Nicolai and where all the kind of different product and service changes are coming from, and what's been happening on the market. So we got 60% in. Let's try to get to 63 now. I'm going to try to get to 70, and I'm going to end the poll. There we go. If we're gonna have one more person vote, come on. I know it's summer, but you know, let's get some opinions out there. All right, that's enough. Perfect. I'm gonna share the results now. So what do we see? Interesting. So 50% saying concept will change slightly. And after that, quite interestingly, a total re-concept and refurbishment. I think that's an interesting one. So very excited now to see how Nicolai can actually, maybe take some of that and see where the sort of trends are on that. So Nicolai, over to you.
Thank you. Well, nice to meet you all. Nicolai from Kerten Hospitality. Just a bit of history of what we do and who we are. We are a up-and-comer, a disruptive operator. We have a couple of brands, talking traditionally now, a upscale brand, The House, a mid-scale brand, Cloud 7, and Ausspace, as well as a co-working concept, in addition to a couple of food and beverage brands that we are trying to plug in here and there. But going into basically the phase we are in today, our proposition basically has been kind of rethinking space in general for the past couple of years. And although that message was relevant already previously, I mean, pre-COVID, sad to say, or as always, in hindsight, it always then becomes accelerated of some kind. So we see at the moment really a big surge of interest into speaking of what is possible. And our concepts basically are even more simple. We think that the hotel sector in general, or the hospitality sector, is extremely outdated. If you think about today's new developments, or even going back to the amount of growth in pipelines that was seen back in 2019, you're still building hotels with multiple restaurants, with empty lobbies that need huge amount of air condition to cool down or heating. You're not using your space. You're in main prime locations where you would generally say, I could have rented out this space and made a fortune at no risk or no speculation. So our principle is really to go in and say, we don't want to change everything. We look at each initiative and say, in what location does what make sense? In order to stop the dependence of basically, last month I had 30 bus tours arriving, and next year I need 32 in order to make my budget. Well, we try to kind of make the flow of your business a bit more organic. Hence, I think the sustainability topic is key. We are building propositions on local needs and creating a mixed venture of possibly a co-living component, a co-working component, and generally even being open to franchising out or renting out space, rather than assuming that we can do it all under one roof. So ideally, we don't want to overpopulate the accommodational piece. We like hotels that are smaller, in scale because the risk is minimized. We also like to combine, and that is maybe a message out to existing hotels of 500 keys or more. We like to combine and sell off areas to possibly private tenants in order to generate footfall. We like to rent out to individuals, and in terms of a lobby, for us is never an empty space. It's a barber shop, it's a florist, it's a pop-up store, it's a cafe and a co-working component all in one. So I think thinking ahead, and it's very difficult now to change an asset and find the liquidity for it. But I guess our responsibility here is to find new ventures and new ways for new people into the industry, because I do think you know, one has to take these type of opportunities and start changing. You know, it's the equivalent of a ski slope that sees no more snow. At some stage, you have to rethink what you're doing and maybe start doing a mountain bike trail or something like that. So we are bringing these kind of basic ideals into the discussion. I don't want to go in and say, this is what we're looking for. I think every hotel, every proposition has something that is worth looking at. And basically, we try to manage these things on one platform, doing basically anything you could think of under one roof. I think the square meter or the revenue per square meter kind of thinking is going to become more and more key. So if you start applying the history, hoping for this to recover in 2 to 3 years' time, I'm not the one to make prophecies here, but I will, you know, speculate that you may overestimate the power of your product. And I think this kind of the hotel industry, shockingly enough, has had a lot of technology available to it to change arrival experiences, etc. The sustainability piece has always been put up against costs of operating. And if we start really rethinking and you know, making it available to a larger portion and decreasing the effort in order to make that profitable, you would also organically kind of be able to adapt these type of new ideas. So our idea is to look and talk to as many future developers, existing ventures, to see how we can generate traffic basically. And at times even going in and saying it's probably worth decreasing your inventory for the sake of doing other things in order to create a more stable environment and therefore capitalize on these kind of times. So that is basically our proposition. It is not something you can put your finger on and really translate, because each location, and also if you're looking at our pipeline in general, none of our projects, or none, very few of them have similarities to each other. So we just opened a couple of days ago, or now a week ago, a 75-unit residential project in Aqaba, Jordan. Started off sold out, basically on organic footfall, building on domestic travel rather than you know, the need of an international traveler and a 5-star guest. And we try to kind of play with, you know, we don't want to put two restaurants in this place because there are 15 in our immediate vicinity. So we are playing with digital kind of concierge services in order to make sure that we can reach people also in a more, you know, COVID friendly way. So it's really talking about revamping your arrival experience, what technology is out there to minimize touch points, the efficiency of using staff where you can actually as an investor see a return. Hence, sorry to say, maybe spa in every building is not necessary. You'd rather think of something else. And that can multiply into really unlimited amount of combinations. So this is basically how I think the way forward should be. Activate more space, make sure you use every square meter of it, of prime real estate on big and really key locations. You need to make sure you're less dependent on guests hopefully booking you because you have a very nice swimming pool. You know, I think this kind of concept has to change, and it has to be a bit more purpose-filled rather than, you know, building a big net and hoping to catch as many fish as possible. So this is our approach, and it's resonating, as I said, quite well at the moment. Sadly enough, something like this has to happen in order for all of us to rethink, but I think it is a topic that has been on many people's minds for quite some time already.
Well, I think that it's testament to the fact that we saw from the statistics, right? The second highest in the poll was total refurbishment and reconcept, which probably, if we wouldn't be where we are right now, would not have been what we had seen, right? So I think it's exactly what you said, and I like the idea of rethinking space. I think that's a kind of an overarching theme right now of going out of the traditional hotel model and seeing what else can be added. And one question to you, Nicolai, before we go over to John, is that we've seen from statistics right now from STR for the last couple of months that actually extended stay has done better than the hotel product. So what's your kind of view on that in terms of future development?
I mean, yeah, I think generally you're capsuled off, right? Extended stay is not going to be 1,000 people waiting in line at the lobby. It's not going to be big queues for, breakfast, etc. It's really, it speaks the language of exactly what we need today. In general, I think the extended stay component does not have to be an independent or a standalone. If I'm rethinking space, I'm also talking a hotel that is offering 22 different room categories with different views and 2 or 3 square meters more space, charging 20 euros on top. That has no value to anyone. It's really the ability to, or maybe accommodation and bedding capacity has value, but the rest of it really needs to be, COVID friendlier. And I guess that means, why shouldn't I be able to self-sustain myself with an own kitchen and own refrigerator and still have to deal with the minibar, for example? Why do I need daily housekeeping if I'm staying there for longer? So it's really, it catches a lot of topics. And I think an extended stay option doesn't have to be standalone. It can really be something that hotels actually make use of and focus their attention on other areas. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely something we'll see more of probably here in this region as well, because we don't really have yet. We have some starting to do more extended stays and private apartments that are going on the market, but I think we'll see a good blend on that in the future. So I'm very keen to see what all these refurbishment and reconcepting actually will spit out. So thank you so much, Nicolai, for sharing your thoughts, and we'll make sure that we put contact details available in case anyone wants to get in touch. Now we're going to move on to the last kind of topic, which is a really big one, which is education and skills. So there's a lot that has changed in education in this pandemic. We've just talking to my own school in Switzerland, everything went virtual classrooms and everything done digitally. But it also is a question of what are the kind of new skills that are needed in the next normal. So again, as always, I'm gonna do our third and last poll before we get over to John. So on your screen, you will see what will employers value most post-COVID in your view? Is it ability to multitask? Is it teamwork? Is it flexibility? Is it cultural awareness? So very keen to see what our audience will come back with. So I see some answers coming in already, which is great. Thank you so much. Again, I won't know who answered what, so please feel free. It's always great to have these statistics, especially for our speakers, because it helps them to kind of conceptualize their topic better. So we are at 65%. Let's see. Well, I think this is a bit of a no-brainer, but I wanted to see how the other aspects also line up. So I'm going to end it now because we're at 70%, and I'm going to share the results. So there you go. Yes, by the way, someone had asked if we can ask questions to all speakers. Yes, you can. Just write it in there and I will relay it. Absolutely. So back to the poll. So what do we see? It's flexibility, right? So and right after followed that by ability to multitask, because I think one thing that we've seen a lot is people have had to become multitaskers. We had Kai Shukovsky on here a couple of weeks ago, GM of Kempinski Vilnius, saying literally everyone in the property is doing everything. So it's really kind of a testament to that. So with that, I'm going to give it over to John from Poland.
From Poland and export from Barcelona. Left there because of the crisis, so now I'm back in Poland. But Hosco is headquartered actually in Barcelona, Spain, as well as in Geneva, Switzerland. So just briefly, in case you all don't know about Hosco, we're the world's largest hospitality network. We've consolidated the students from the best hotel schools, the talents who are professionals in the industry, and the employers that want to hire those talents in one single space. So from my perspective, what I believe I can speak to with relative accuracy are the opinions and the trends that the schools are enacting, is the opinions and the trends that the students are seeing, and is the opinions and the trends of the employers right now. Right now, regarding employers, I just want to share a little bit of information about hiring trends. What we've done on Hosco is some surveys, if you will. We've asked HR managers and general managers and CEOs, what is the future going to be and when is it going to come? Yeah. So if you look at some recruitment predictions, and by the way, we did this over a 3-month period. So we've been able to compare April to May to June. So what our latest June results say is that 38% of respondents expect to reactivate their recruitment plan during this year. And they predict to recruit more intensely between January and June of 2021. And that's a 47% increase versus the previous 2 surveys, which said they plan to start recruiting again in July and December. So it's a big pushback to when things will start getting back to normal regarding recruitment predictions. Regarding headcount recovery, 22% believe that they'll regain their headcount in 2020. That's a plus 7% over our April numbers. But employers still envision an 18-month recovery timeline, 18 months. And it's mainly between Q1 and Q2 of 2021. So overall, what we've seen from our employer perspective is that there's 3 priorities. It's financial management, where 26% versus 27% said that was the most important for the June hospitality pulse, as we call it. Number 2 was workforce engagement, which is up 22% versus 15% by the past survey. And number 3 was workforce health and safety, 20 versus 24%. So tell that, as I'm sure you've spoken in the past, there is a recovery, but that recovery is being extended more and more and more. Data that is back in. So if we know that the job is going to take a while to come back, and we know that the first kind of job come back, we'll be hiring talents. What do the students at the hospitals do right now? What do the people who want to work in hospitality do right now? And I think that actually fits very the survey results we saw, flexibility. So, for example, with Nicolai, when he was just speaking before this call, we had about company. He said, well, one thing I'm doing, virtual internships, because it's attractive, but he has to get the word out. So what's better than having a student who studied hospitality?
I think, John, you're cutting out. I think we're losing you, and we lost John now completely. So, let's see if we can get him to join back in. John has just moved from Barcelona to Poland and is having some sort of issues. But maybe in the meantime, actually, will Nicolai maybe we can have a bit of a discussion about staff, because obviously operations is a big part of what you guys do at Kerten as well. So kind of getting your viewpoints on that model and going back to the idea of multitasking and being able to be flexible.
Yeah, I think, sorry, John is back. I'll answer that quickly.
Yeah.
I think from in any hotel venture or any restaurant business, etc., staff is where you make or break it, right? So looking for efficiencies, whether that is, and I'm not speaking now, I know there's a lot of markets where a union is very relevant as well, and you're not allowed to do certain things. But for us, the overall experience also to a guest needs to be simplified, right? So if we do a little bit less of everything and offer an interesting proposition, use technology, then you become more of a consultant to a guest rather than I'm here only to hand you a key and show you to the elevator kind of element.
Precisely.
So it by default becomes, a master of many trades, and it goes back in time, actually. It's about hosting people, not fancy uniforms and name tags and pointing into directions. So I think this is where it basically comes back to it and says, why do you have to be a server for a certain area only when you can actually cater to different areas? Why do I even have to serve when actually I need more attention on people, showing them how great my location and destination is, and actually creating relationships. So we try to use, and I'm speaking now of things such as auto or machines to check you in, vending machines or grab and go stations rather than fancy outlets. And that is how we, there is not a price tag behind everything we do. There's not a price expectations behind everything we do, but we believe that the whole location is stimulated by vibrance and as many people and as much out there as possible, and that is a bit what we try to emulate.
And
so
Nicolai, that's what a hospitality student wants, right? They don't want to just be checking in guests all day or doing key cards all day. They are trained to multitask. They're trained to also have a human touch. And as human touch is so much in demand right now because we are lacking human touch, I really believe that the hospitality trained students will be very well positioned to give the human touch as well as multitask, as well as be flexible in these hotel environments. Now, the question comes, where do they come from? The trend says, again, employers won't start hiring until 2021. But when they do, there's going to be a huge talent gap, a massive talent gap. And the traditional form of educating a hospitality talent is too slow. Taking 3 to 4 years to get a bachelor in hospitality, it's just not going to meet the demand, right? So what is more important, the skills of the person, the behavior of the person, or the academic credential of the person? Now, what we're seeing at Hosco is that skills are becoming more and more and more the key, right? But where do you get the skills? In the past, once you join a hotel, you were clearly trained. But again, time may not be enough. So what's happening in academia, and this is kind of, I guess, the main point of my discussion here, is there is a massive disruption in the delivery of hospitality education. The schools have seen, number one, the model of flying a kid in from around the world to study in Switzerland is not sustainable because they can't fly or they can't get a visa, right? Number two, they're seeing that, hey, we have brand value in the education market, just as a Harvard has brand value or MIT has brand value. But we're limiting ourselves to brick and mortar locations. Let's get our courses online and let's spread it to the world so everyone can have a Swiss degree or a French degree or a Spanish degree. I won't mention any schools because they're all my partners, right? But you get the idea. The brand will lead it. But branding can't necessarily mean a quality employee. There has to be good content and good training. And that's where the schools are suffering the most. They're trying to figure out how to take these brick and mortar, beautiful chalet taught courses that were done on a Swiss mountaintop and digitalize it. And what they're finding is that it's not just about being a talking head and a GM saying, oh, back in the day. There are very specific learning behaviors that the industry knows, but the schools know too, but they've done too academic. So now what's happening is industry programs are starting to come into academia. Hosco itself is working on a project with a company called Lobster Inc., which brings the world's best internal training programs and puts them in the schools. And doesn't that just make sense? The schools have been saying, well, we're going to train you, we think, to the standards of the industry. Why not just take the standards of the industry and throw it into the schools? No middle time required. So what you're learning in the school is the exact procedure for housekeeping in the standardized hotels. It is the exact procedure for checking a guest in the hotels. That makes a quicker turnaround to a talent, and that makes a quicker or better return to the employer in receiving a talent who's ready to go turnkey on day one. But back to flexibility. I do believe that there will be gig economy coming up, because once the hiring comes back, it's going to be the furlough back, bring short-term work back, and then bring back people we try to hire through traditional channels like Hosco or whatever. Yeah. So the gig economy is going to be big, and gig economy being big means that people will need skills that want micro credentials. They want to be able to say, I can do front office management because I learned this skill, and here's the credential to back it up. Here's A, the school degree, or B, the badge to visually recognize my skills to prove to Mr. Employer, yes, I can actually do this. Yeah. So education is getting a bit of a shakeup, and it's been a long time coming. Just as your company, Nicolai, is now seeing the refurbishment of hotels maybe into work from hotel, like co-working spaces. Finally, the schools are waking up and saying online education is the future, and they're questioning, is my brand presence good enough to attract the talents? And if it's not, honestly, I think we're going to see some shrinkage. I think we're going to see the schools who don't have that global presence, that global respect, the global outcome of top talents slowly dying down. And we're going to see the ones who do have that dominate in many markets. For example, would you rather have a Harvard degree, maybe $6,000, $7,000 bucks? Would you rather have some ABC university Pay the 2,000 more, you have the Harvard, you have the brand. So this is what I see. I have 400 plus partner schools I work with all around the world, all offering hospitality, tourism, education. Some are standalone, some are departments, but all are asking this question: how can we break beyond the brick and mortar and get our programs democratized out to the world of these future hospitality talents?
Thank
I
you,
mean, keep
John.
us in mind, John, sorry if I jump in there. All that brick and mortar shouldn't be demolished. We can come in and do some
There you go.
student residences, before you conclude.
John, just a quick question, because we have one for Nicolai as well for the audience, and then we need to wrap it up. For you, John, what about attitude next to skills and titles?
Well, we all know that the attitude of a hospitality person has been one of the most valued traits that any of these hospitality schools has traditionally taught, right? We have a human touch, and what's very important is the digital touch coming in the future. The hospitality and generally the industry has to understand is that there's going to be a lot more asked from the guests, from a safety perspective, but also from a personality perspective, right? Before they come to the hotel, before in the past, it was kind of being almost like a servant. And I know that sounds nasty, but it is honestly how some people felt they were treated. It's, come in, yeah, do your job, check me in, I go to my room. Now it's like, you are in my hands. You're entering an environment and you are assuming that we've made this environment safe to make sure that we're testing for any COVID issues. And if I have any issues, I'm coming to you. It's not just my happiness that's at stake, it's my health that's at stake. And that changes the relationship a lot. So that means there's gonna be a lot more empathy for the guests from the hospitality perspective, and it's going to have to be a lot more professionalism. It means that we're not just dealing with a nice to have, we're dealing with unnecessary. They have to make sure that procedures are strictly followed regarding cleaning, regarding safety, and regarding the overall well-being of the guest. And although we were very good at that with hospitality in the past, now it is a health issue, not just a hospitality issue, which changes the game.
Great. Thanks, John. I think that was actually the perfect way to encapsulate the most immediate needs that are coming out right now in terms of the service side of things. And Nicolai, just the last question to you before we wrap this up is how will investing in the right asset classes allow businesses and owners to gain the highest return on their investment and support the co-living and co-working trend?
A very good question. It's one that we ask us with every projection and feasibility that we get into. So it's an individual answer based on location and type of traffic behaviors. Overall, however, I think it's diversifying. So it's not a big investment to set up or change the atmosphere of a meeting room and create a co-working or a capsuled office type of environment. In terms of, you have to sit down and just be honest to yourself with your own P&L and say, am I happy with this? Am I still believing in this thought for the next 5 to 10 years? Or when is the time to change, right? Otherwise, we will be there and sending out more flyers to big, never-ending audiences, hoping that someone reacts. We're really, as an industry, this to me is as revolutionizing as the internet was. That really struck the hotel business quite late. The distribution channels changed now and everyone is booking online. A lot of that change has gone through pretty similar characteristics of what we do today. It's not a must. I'm not saying everyone has this issue. There's a lot of locations where you may be successfully very soon. I mean, if John's comment on when people start hiring again is true, that may come back very soon. So really, we're not about making prophecies. We're very simple. Reach out to us. The more open you are with us and sharing what you have, what your concerns are, all we do is kind of come in with an objective idea to see whether that feels appropriate for your location. It's more than a asset class type of discussion. Generally speaking, it becomes a very straightforward picture, and the cost side of investing is on a daily basis headcounts that are put in positions where there is no revenue generated. That is the biggest stumbling block, not what it costs to remodel or finance a different proposition. I think this is the core of our message.
Thank you, Nicolai. And we'll make sure we give the details of how to get in touch with you in case people from the audience have interest. So with that, I'm going to conclude our last and 7th webinar. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you, Nicolai. Thank you, John, for joining us today from all over the world. It's been such a pleasure hosting all the kind of 7 last seminars. We are now taking a small break. Please make sure you go onto our website so you can rewatch these webinars as well as get the infographics for yourself and the team. And we will come with an announcement for the forum in October in a couple of weeks' time as well. So we would like to thank very much our partners, Enterprise Estonia and the City of Tallinn, for supporting this webinar series with us, and all my team members, Marika, Ai, Anette, and Katrin, for helping to bring this to life. So my name is Heleri Rande. Have a great summer and keep safe. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.